Hello and welcome to another devlog for my small rope swinging game. For this episode, there are a few things I want to get done. One being the background you see in the main menu. As of now, it's completely black and I want to change that to be more interesting to look at. Because as a player, you'll be spending some time just buying items and skins and comparing your high scores to others. Which is the next thing I want to get to this episode. Global leaderboards have always been a feature I really wanted to add to my game, and now is finally the time where I add them. To start things off, there are some minor details that have been bugging me for a bit now, and I'll just get those out of the way first. Firstly, I wanted to implement a score by distance feature suggested in the comments. I thought it was a great idea, so now it's displayed next to the default score measurement. I'll adjust this in the future some more. Maybe I'll even show a little value for how many points you need to beat your previous high score. Next, from another suggestion, I wanted to change the direction of the particles that come off the rope when you attach to it. This is just a small cosmetic change, but I really like how it looks. And finally, I added this little placeholder gravestone to the last place your player died. This isn't final yet, and I think I'm still going to add a little indicator showing how far your player is from the gravestone. But this is what I have now. With those small details out of the way, it's time to move on to the menu background. I was thinking of just having the player dangle in the main menu on a rope, but I see how that has the potential to get in the way, especially in the character selection screen. So for an initial attempt, I just added the canopy sprite all around the screen and put some trees in the background. Then I made a little script to move the camera up and down along the tree trunks with a sign function. There was still the void to deal with though, so I decided to draw a background tileable sprite that I could also use in game to replace the green void. I had to make multiple iterations of this as it suffered from some major grid artifacts at first, but I think I managed after some attempts to make it look non-repeating for the most part. So I added this to the main menu and gave it a parallax effect so it moves slower than the trees. And this is what the end result looks like. I also added it to the game background. Then I thought it would be interesting if when the camera reaches the bottom and the top of the screen, there would be something for the player to look at other than more tree trunks. So I added some spikes to the bottom with some programmer art gravestones and added some dangling ropes to the top. To top it off, I got rid of the encompassing canopy and made it repeating on the sides instead, and there we have it. This is the full menu background as it is and will be for a while until I redo some of the sprites like the spikes, gravestones, and buttons. With that done, there are only a few more features I need to implement before all the gameplay is finally done and I can fully focus on art and making the game ready for mobile. One of these features I need to still implement are local stats for the player to reminisce on. This includes the high score by distance and the original rope score I made up, along with some other features like total amount of deaths and so on. I can just make this panel with some description text for the stat type on the left and the stat number on the right. Then I can repeat this panel as many times as needed and change the text. For the value, I just made a small getter script that returns each of the requested stat values and I can apply them to each stat panel. And that's the stat menu done. Which leads me to the final addition of this episode, global leaderboards. Now, implementing leaderboards requires a few things. One is authentication, to determine that the user playing is playing for the right account. Next is storing data in the cloud for each user. This will include the user stats for the global leaderboards. Also, the user will be able to log in to any device and continue playing because their data will be stored in the cloud. I did some research on how on earth I would go about doing this, and I came upon this useful tool called Firebase by Google. Firebase is an all-in-one package. It basically takes care of the authentication. Authentication and database management in one place. It's amazing, right? So, yes, Firebase is relatively easy to use, and I'm happy it exists, otherwise I think this whole thing would be a near impossible feat. But there were some major complexities I had to overcome to implement a usable user management system. For one, I wanted to make the user data available offline and online, so the user doesn't have to be connected to the internet to enjoy the game. I made this little activity diagram to manage the user login process, and it turned out to be mostly garbage, but I eventually got it working most of the time. I now have this window you can open to manage your account. It has a login with Google button to begin with, and when you're logged in, you have the option to log out or delete your account. Very simple for the time being, but that's basically the entire user management system right there. Now I need to retrieve the stored data from the database in the online leaderboards. Honestly, at this point I was looking forward to this task since it seemed a lot less challenging than the authentication process and user management, which honestly I still need to take a look at because there are some issues and quirks I really need to sort out. Oh well. So for the global scores leaderboard, I basically have this script which retrieves the top 100 scores of the selected category and generates a list using a score panel prefab. This is just a simple prefab which shows the username, score, and rank of any given player on the top 100 leaderboard. Then I have a separate panel below the leaderboard for the rank of the currently logged in user. I get the current user's rank by counting how many players have a score greater than that of the player in the database. Pretty simple query, but it's quite an intensive operation depending on the number of players in the database. This game will most likely never see millions of players anyway, so I think one intensive operation like this is completely fine. With that done, I now have a working global leaderboard, which I wanted to have in my game so badly. Well, that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe if you have, like to show support, and leave a comment if you have a suggestion. With that said, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.